In studio with us tonight, we have Steve Carlson, candidate for the U.S. Senate, seeking the seat currently held by Amy Klobuchar. He's running as a Democrat, but certainly the most unconventional senatorial candidate from the Democratic Party that I've ever encountered. He's a fan of Donald Trump, and he holds positions that many of you may hold as well on issues like immigration and tariffs and the views regarding the threat of Islam and Sharia law and what have you. And we're getting into all of that here tonight on Closing Argument. My name's Walter Hudson, Twin Cities News Talk, AM 1130, 103.5 FM. You can catch us streaming at TwinCitiesNewsTalk.com and on your iHeartRadio app. We're here 9 to 11 weeknights. 651-989-5855 is the number to join us this evening. Brad Omlin producing the show, taking your calls. We got Barry on the line in St. Paul's. Got a question for Steve Carlson. Welcome to the program.
So you're going up against Amy Klobuchar, who started out as saying she was a blue dog Democrat, which is kind of the position you're taking, where you're saying, well, I agree with you guys, with the Republicans more than the Democrats on some of these core issues. But the problem that Amy ran into was when she tried to do that, she had all of the Democratic Party against her. How are you going to keep your beliefs that you have and still stay a Democrat and be able to get positions of power that are going to benefit Minnesota? Because let's be honest here, that's what it's about when you go to the national level, to be able to get on these committees. How is that going to help us any?
Okay, thanks, Barry, for that question. Well, first of all, I have a lot of parliamentary experience. Okay, I mean, like, I know Robert's Rules of Order, and I get in there, and I get a lot of motions passed, and I get a lot of things done. Now, obviously, when you get into the Congress, they have different rules, but they're essentially the same. Now, as far as the Senate goes, they're the deliberative body. They very often have a 60 vote requirement, and so what you have to do is listen. And I really can listen. I listen to what you said, but I don't know if Amy Klobuchar was really a blue dog Democrat or not, because I can't really detect any values from her. And I don't want to just go off on her in answering your question, but to me, she's pretty much like, I would call her a wallflower. She doesn't really do anything. She has these little projects, which every once in a while she puts in the papers. But let's take one of those. And I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent, but let me just give you an example of cancer. Okay. Now, my wife has had breast cancer, and she's been part of this program, which is a federal program in which the treatment is supposed to be paid for if you're diagnosed under that program. Well, so that program, the state of Minnesota, and Amy Klobuchar is going along with this. They're throwing her off 2 years before her cancer treatment was completed, and they're throwing hundreds of Minnesota women off. Now, I don't even think that Amy Klobuchar gets it, what this is about. I mean, this is breast cancer. Now, on the other hand, look at one of her projects. What does she do about cancer? Well, she has a registry for firemen who, yes, firemen get cancer, and it's terrible. But it's going to be really terrible when it turns out just like it did for the women that were being screened in the 1990 Act, where they just screened them and they watched them die because there was no help available for them to get treatment. And there isn't help available for these firemen either. So she's just trying to do basically nothing. And I am going to work across, I know Al says he worked across the aisle, but I actually do. I have a very good track record. People used to ask me, they read about what I was doing in Minnesota Daily. They say, why are you defending the option of students to opt out of paying for MPIRG? I mean, weren't you on MPIRG? Isn't that a conservative position? Well, yes, but if freedom of the students to not be forced to participate in MPIRG, that's something I want to talk with everybody about, and we solved that issue, I thought.
But none of that's going to be the problem. What the problem is going to be is, let's say you win, right?
Right.
What's going to happen is the Democratic Party is going to throw everything at you, and they're going to make it a big race in 4 years.
Well,
you're going to lose.
I don't back Chuck Schumer as the minority leader. What I have seen Amy Klobuchar do is stand up beside Chuck Schumer while they were shutting down the government. Now, she wasn't doing it on a blue dog thing. She did it because supposedly they weren't going to solve the DACA issue. And so she voted against a continuing resolution to allow the government to continue. And I have a picture of that on my Twitter feed, which is Steve W. Carlson.
I appreciate the call, Barry. I'll try to follow up here for you.
Thank you.
I think what Barry's getting after is that I think you've established well that you'll be an independent voice. Like, I don't picture somebody pushing you around, a whip coming along and saying you're going to go this way, and you actually being like, okay, like that. I don't see that in your character, your personality. But to Barry's point, there is this question of what it's like to caucus with a party, and you're running as a Democrat. And if they want to, they can shut you out of everything. They could shut you, assuming that they have the majority or whatever, they have the control. They can shut you out of the committees. They could shut you out of being able to have much impact or much of a say. So are you effectively running just to kind of be an insurgent voice, or do you hope to be able to actually accomplish something?
I know I can. The power lies with the people. It always has. It always does. And so we need to address these issues. We have issues like immigration that needs to be solved. Take for instance, the children that have been separated from their parents. Well, why is that happening? It's because Amy Klobuchar and the rest of the Democrats, first, they won't do anything now to allow them to be united and not be shut out by that 20-day limit that comes from this court case, Flores versus Reno.
Yeah.
But at the same time, who started this? And I have a video that's about the Wilberforce Amendment. Wilberforce Amendment is about human trafficking. And it says that the government is supposed to take these young girls, who they said 80% of them say they've been sexually assaulted when they get in the United States, and meet with them and see if they really have been. And if they have been, to follow up on that and to protect them. And if they haven't been, they're going to repatriate them, not back to the other side of the border where they probably will be trafficked, but back to their countries of origin. Now, I brought that up under Obama. Now, Obama, after the election, he gives all this discretionary authority to prosecutors. And I think I know some of those girls got put in a case in Ohio where they're actually slave labor. And
I understand the argument that you're making. What I'm suggesting, and what I think Barry is suggesting, is that having the correct argument isn't going to advance policy. That the institutional reality is you have to actually have the political support amongst your caucus and frankly the consent of your leadership in order to be able to do anything.
Well, I don't mean to be disrespectful to the institution at all, but I will want support from Donald Trump. I will want support from moderate Republicans and moderate Democrats, the true blue dog approach. I want to work with them. I want to solve these problems. And as we go through each of my issues, I think you'll find I actually have solutions. I actually understand what the hang-ups are. And I want to say one more thing, and that is that, self-governance has always been limited. Our colonies just sort of delegated self-governance to people to solve issues, so that they could be productive. It's not some philosophy class, where everybody has to agree. Things have to get done. Governance has to proceed so that we can have a successful country.
All right, let's explore one of those issues. Sure. And we're running short on time before we have to go to another break, but I want to get back into